Hello again, Prash.
How's it going, Shweta?
All good, all good.
Yeah,
It's kind of welcome back to the people that are tuning in too.
yeah,
And
episode number two.
episode number two, and we kind of left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but also kind
Mm,
of a follow through of talking initially about our experiences of going through divorce and separation and our journeys through that.
mm,
And then it was kind of the focus of right now, that going through that phase of healing and growing as you're going through this journey, right? And we talked about quite a few things, didn't we, in that last episode that kind of interlinked to this new theme we're going to talk about of healing and growing.
yeah, no, you definitely did because I think we were going to be moving on to co-parenting, but didn't realize that. Yeah, by the end of I guess by the end of that conversation last time, we realized that healing and growing was such a important factor, right? Especially after going through a divorce. So yeah, let's cover that today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's important also just to revisit that one of the things that I was sharing with Prash before we jumped on is like I did this top 10 tips of things that I wish I knew before I divorced. And one of them is also knowing that you've tried everything, right,
Mm,
Prash? And that's what we talked about. And we did. We put the kitchen sink at it and it was just not happening. And
mm,
so, therefore, a big thing we were talking about is practicing that art of forgiveness. And it's not about forgiving bad behavior,
mm,
it's not about excusing things, but forgiveness in that sense of being able to let go of those past emotions, have that peace in your mind
yeah.
to just to free yourself up and let that
Mm,
go, isn't it? And it's really underestimated the power of like forgiveness. And it's not that you're saying you're a doormat and that it's okay what they did. No, it's
mm,
more powerful than that. It's a sense of like it happened, it was
mm,
not okay, but I'm letting that go because I need to continue now with my life.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, very important. Yeah.
Ultimately, that's what we're saying about because there's something like if we lose the analogy with like if you're clenching your fists,
Mm,
right, and you've got long nails, you're only hurting yourself,
yeah.
right? You're only hurting yourself. You're holding on to that hate and that anger and everything like all they did. But if you
Mm,
open that hand up, it's so much more freeing. You're no
mm,
longer hurting yourself. You're letting it go. Yeah.
mm,
I know that's like a crazy analogy of you, but it is sometimes as
yeah.
physical as that. You could be
Yeah.
physically hurting yourself by not letting go.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think so. I use the analogy, and I might have mentioned in the last call as well. So, imagine a weighted ball and a shackle that's attached to your leg, and you're dragging that ball day in, day out, and the more pain that gets accumulated over time because of bad behavior towards you or hurt is caused towards you, that ball gets heavier every single time. Now imagine how much harder it's going to be to walk through life knowing that you're carrying this big ball, which has probably started off at like 2 kilo, 1 kilo or 2 kilos, and now it's like 50 or 60 kilos, and you're constantly dragging that through life. It's just not going to be realistic, is it? You're not going to be able to grow or heal through that process without you healing and chipping away at that ball to say, actually, let me take off 10 kilos here because I've been holding on to this weight of like divorce. And actually, I'd probably say that's more than 10 kilos, but I've been holding on to this weight of going through divorce, but also all the small individual things that people have done towards me, which where I've felt hurt. And, I'm going to decide now from this point moving forward, like I'm going to forgive them because I want this ball to get lighter so I can move forward and walk through life and start running and really thriving rather than just surviving, right? And that's a huge thing. Like we don't no longer want to just survive because of the circumstances we've been put under. We just genuinely want to thrive now and move forward.
Totally, totally. And I know you say that as an analogy about the 10 kg, right?
Mhm.
But for some people, that could actually be emotional weight sitting on your body,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
get a bit real about this,
Mm,
especially because I do the embodiment work. That could be physically, you are carrying that too,
mm,
not just metaphorically, it's sitting and imprinted in your body.
yeah.
The moment you do that shedding process of letting that go,
Mm,
that embodiment changes as well. Like I know,
yeah.
like for you, you had like a massive shift in your journey in terms of like weight loss. And a lot of
Mm,
that, yeah, okay, I get you go to the gym and do all those things, but it's the emotional body. People
yeah.
forget it's an emotional pain body as well, right? Once you start letting that go, that's part of then that
Mm,
healing process. And then you
mm,
notice that physically in yourself
mm,
as well.
yeah.
Did you experience that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think so just kind of something to point out here as well, and that is whenever, and this is speaking from a male perspective, guys, when they go through something difficult in life, they tend to focus on the gym. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get myself in shape now because that's gonna make me feel better. And yes, of course, it does make you feel better, like the endorphins and all the positive stuff that comes out of it. Confidence, it boosts your confidence as well. And generally, you start to feel better within yourself when you're wearing certain clothes as well. Because if you have been on a weight loss journey and clothes start to feel more baggier, then you tend to feel better. But also, like, if you're looking for like muscle growth as well, like, you start filling out your arms and you instantly kind of feel like, oh wow, like I feel more confident now because of this, right? But I think a lot of guys tend to forget the step of forgiving, and I'll be talking about the weight that you embody, right? Like
Yes.
that's still going to be there. Like, what are you doing to let go of that? And I think this is the diving into like what worked for me, and this is something I talk about with my clients as well, and that is forgiveness and gratitude. And it was a huge part to play in me letting go of all the hurt that I was holding on to truly move forward. And my forgiveness was truly focused around like my ex, her family, certain things that had happened during that marriage and relationship. And, I was just holding on to it. I was so bitter. And I'm sure you can relate to certain things, right? Like that bitterness was there all the time. I was just like, she did this to me, or they've done this, and why are they behaving like this? And it was just this constant nagging feeling there all the time. And it was just this weight that was all constantly on my shoulders, or, whatever. And I had to start focusing on like, well, actually, like by me feeling this way, I'm dragging myself down as well. How long do I continue this for? How can I start moving forward? And I guess this is around the time, like in 2018, and I know we spoke about it last time, but introduced into the world of like law of attraction and all this kind of stuff. And that's kind of when I came across gratitude. So I decided to flip it. And this is something I share with all of my clients as well. And that is, rather than saying, why is this happening to me? I started to say, well, I'm so grateful that I'm going through divorce because I am learning so much through this experience. But more importantly, I'm growing through this. And then once I started doing that, there was a shift in my mindset, which changed it from like this negative thing of why is this happening to me to now, well, actually, I'm learning and growing through this now. And this is my reality and I'm accepting it for what it is. So I think that was a huge turning point for me. But also saying like I'm so grateful that these specific things happened with my ex-wife, or these specific things happened with her family, because and I would also say the individual incidents that had happened, because in each incident that happened there was always a silver lining. There was a chance for me to grow and learn something from it. And I guess that's what you kind of got to look at, right? Rather than looking at, and I guess, yeah, here's a question actually that I ask a lot of my clients, and that is life happening to you or is life happening through
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Right? And it's like when you actually like shift your mindset to that kind of wisdom, right, or that sort of thought process, it really
Yes.
helps you shift it from like you're not the victim anymore. You don't need to be the victim, and we can move forward, right, without holding on to the weight of our past and the past behaviors, because we can't change that now. That's already done,
Mm.
right? So how do we continue moving forward? And it's like, well, you got to draw the line at some point, right? Um,
Yeah, absolutely, you do. And it's one of those where I like how you coined that. And it's similar, like we have gratitude, right? Oh, I'm grateful for the abundance and joy, and people do
yeah,
their affirmations. But I agree with you. There's also the gratitude for the challenges. And it might
Mm.
sound a bit sadistic, like what on earth are these two on about?
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
it. Because initially when I heard it, I was like, what are they on about? But
yeah.
life is like multifaceted, right?
Mm,
It's not just like one dimensional. And
mm,
sometimes it's using these as an opportunity to reroute. It's an
mm,
opportunity to learn something new. You might be off track in your life. Like for me, like if I look back, and if there's a parallel universe, I don't know if it exists, but let's like pretend,
yeah,
and there's a universe where I'm still married,
mm,
right? There is no way that person would have gone and set up a business.
mm,
There is no way that woman would be, in her full expression. I would not be the mother I am today. I would not be the woman I am today. I would be a very suppressed version of that.
yeah,
Right. So, do I have gratitude? Absolutely, because it freed me up to be in my wholeness of my truth and following what I would truly love. Was it messy? Was it painful? Of course it was, right, Prash? We're not going to like deny that,
yeah,
but it was an opportunity for me to reroute.
mm,
It taught me a lesson, reroute, and also reframe, because I am still co-parenting with this person, right? Of
yeah,
changing then that relationship. And a big part of that was grieving.
yeah,
A big part of that was grieving at the loss of what that was,
Mm.
and then also then allowing myself to then see, well, where do I want to go next?
Mm. Yeah.
Right, because you've got to, acknowledging that you're not going to go back.
Mm.
That's now gone. It's like, where am I going next? What's my vision now for my future? So for me, it was then that life post divorce.
Mm.
For you, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What's that
So
going to anchor you into? Right.
yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Like just to touch there as well, like touch on there that where you just mentioned like the loss of what, that relationship as well. There's also something else you grieve as well, and that is the loneliness. And it's
Yeah.
like, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
I've been talking with my clients about this as
Yeah.
well. And that is, as soon as you separate from that person that you've been used to for however many, months or years or whatever, there's always that point of feeling where I'm lonely. Like, who do I have now? Where's that
Mm,
companionship gone, right? So that's a
mm,
huge part that we kind of need to also work through, right? Because, and I know, honestly, I see so many people doing it. They come out of a relationship and jump to the next, hoping to fill that void. Doesn't work because
yeah,
you're just transferring your pain and your trauma and wounds to that next relationship. And this is why, like, I genuinely feel, and I know you'd agree, it's so important to heal before moving on to that next relationship.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, growing was probably the most interesting journey, I think, for me. And just talking about the grieving the loss as well, like, and this is a message for the guys out there as well, like cry, like just cry it out as much as you need to. Like I lost count of the times I cried, like after post, after not even after separating, like whilst I was even in my marriage, like I still remember days that I used to come home and lie on the bed and just stare out at the ceiling and just cry. Like, why is this happening to me? Because I was the victim, right? Like, why is this happening to me? What can I do differently? And even after divorce, like, once you start going through that healing process, like you can't hold on to this negative energy, right? So it's like the more we hold on to it, the more it festers into like ailments or other parts of our like mental health or stuff,
Absolutely.
right? I know you're a firm believer of this stuff, right? So it's like, and we spoke about just before this call, like shifting the energy and the focus. How do we kind of do that? And I know you've got your process of like the embodiment stuff as well, and a specific framework that kind of work that not kind of works that works, and how I guess you're the biggest example, right, of that, right? Like you're the one who's done this for
I
yourself.
lived it.
You've
Yeah.
lived it, you've proven it, you've got the results to show for it, and now you also help a wealth of people who are changing their lives through what worked for you. And again, yeah, and I'm totally doing the same thing. Like I found out the blueprint that worked for me, especially from a male perspective as well, right? Like what works and how to get through that process. So yeah, I
Uh,
think a huge part of the healing is like just making sure you cry it out and sit with your feelings,
yes.
face the emotions, because until you face that emotion, you're gonna keep on burying it deep down inside.
I am so glad you said that.
Mm.
Because I think a lot of men suffer from this. So I know quite a few men that are going through divorce, or that have, and they have not really cried it out.
Mm.
And I'm not saying like, perhaps maybe I'm not saying it's easier for women, but there is that sense, I guess, as a woman that we find our safe spaces. We
Mm.
know then as a woman we can come together and collectively create that space, right? Or have that go to, and there's a level of vulnerability there
Mm.
to be able to do that for ourselves, because this isn't a lone wolf journey.
No.
Right, you need to find your tribe, you need to
Mm.
find your people, your safe space that you can go to, where you might want to just rant as well, to be fair, where you can rant, cry, but let all those emotions out.
Mm.
And if it is part of that, is it helps with the healing and the grieving process,
Yeah.
right? Because if you don't, that is gonna, you're just hurting yourself and you're physically hurting. Like you said earlier, it comes up in ailments in us,
Mm.
right? Like for me, I went into autopilot mode
Yeah.
when it all happened. As a new mom, just separated, went back to work. I'm like coping. I'm just coping, right? And it was so detrimental,
Mm.
where it got to a point where I'm on this autopilot and I should have actually been going to the doctors and getting myself checked out because there was a little pain in my womb.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Mm.
And I remember making a plea bargain. So it was after my daughter's first birthday. I was like, I'll go after my daughter's first birthday to get this checked out.
Mm.
Did I go after my daughter's first birthday to get checked? No, I didn't. I ended up in A&E, the cyst on my ovary burst, and I lost an ovary.
Yeah.
All right. There's a real consequence of denying emotions.
Mm.
There's a real consequence of just running on that autopilot and thinking, I've just got to go, go, go.
Yeah.
Right. And, even as women, we have like that masculine energy where
Mm.
and I think I was very much in that masculine energy. And I think with men, they also feel that need that I just got to keep going on. I haven't
Mm.
got time to sit here and wallow in self pity. I need to keep going. But that
Mm.
will then transpire in your body.
Mm.
That could be in those ailments, that little nigglings where you suddenly got back pain, or your
Yeah.
legs are like cramp, or it starts showing up,
Mm.
right, in you because you haven't gone through that journey. And it's you're probably familiar with this, that the grief cycle.
Yeah. You think you
Where
mentioned it to me before, yeah.
Yeah, so the grief cycle, it is, yeah, okay. This is a form of grief. Let's
Mm.
get real, right? Divorce, separation is a form of grief and it needs to go through that cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. That first stage is that denial, like shock denial, right? Then you go through the angry phase. I remember that one quite well.
Yeah.
And then eventually you come to the acceptance. So it's like this, yeah. And the acceptance is like the bottom part where you are kind of, it is uncomfortable.
Mm.
That is when you're kind of sobbing. That is like, you almost have to go there. You can't bypass that phase.
Mm.
It's that what we were saying, what I said to you before, it's called you need to die to the old,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? For the new to surface.
Mm.
So, and that is going into the discomfort. It is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we're not going to sugarcoat that for you, are we, Prash? It
No,
is.
no, definitely not. No, it's definitely a hard process to go through. It's not for the faint-hearted, let's put it that way. But when you're in it, you have no other option but to get through it.
Yeah.
If you truly want to succeed, right? Like you can be a
Mhm.
negative story where you can really crumble and in the community you'll be like, oh yeah, so and so went through divorce and they've done nothing with their lives. Or you can choose the other route and truly make something of yourself and be a good example of like someone succeeding and making their life better post-divorce, right? Like not everyone's narrative needs to be a negative, right? And I think that was a huge thing for me is like proving to myself, but also to other people, like I can change my life around regardless of all like I said, like the stages of grief that I had to go through. And but I love the fact that you touched on like the tribes, right? Like it's such a important thing. And I think for
Yes.
me, it was I had so many friends before this divorce period, right? And it really highlighted who was there for me and who wasn't. And that's a good like filtering out process because it's like, and it's not to say like bad of anyone else that I was friends with back then. It's just everyone's busy in their own lives and that's totally okay. But there are the select few who have the capacity to help you and guide you through whatever you're going through,
Yeah.
even if it's just a friendly ear to listen to you, just for space for you to vent, or if there's people who are actually going to be there to be like, how are you doing? What's the next stage is? How do we, how can I support you? Like there are people who have got different capacities depending on their own life circumstances, right? So for me, like honestly, like if it wasn't for my tribe, I probably wouldn't be where I am today
Yeah.
because they're the ones who kept me strong. And I'd love to ask you a question as well, but what the one thing that kept me going and that kept me focused, and we talked about shifting energy and focus, was my cousin mentioning to me, or giving me, not mentioning, but giving me the advice of what's the end goal here? So
Yes.
anything that happened and all the noise and the BS in between would really get me fired up, right? Because it's like you're going through the stages of grief, right? And it's like I remember the angry phase really, really clearly, and I just get so fired up, and I'm like, why is she doing this? And why are they fighting for this? And this is not fair, and whatever. And he would always go back to that one question of like, what's the end goal for you here? And that was getting out of the relationship, like want the divorce done. And so that's what you need to focus on. So it's like anything in between is just the noise, right? There's gonna
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah.
and something else that was interesting as well was learning that it wasn't me that was just hurting, it was the other person as well.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's it, right? Like when we go through divorce, we internalize and say that it's just us who are going through it. But I also had to recognize that even though I was hurting and all the pain that was caused towards me, she also was hurting, right? So when there's that back and forth, it's just like sometimes it's out of spite, right? Or out of like pain because it's almost like acceptance of, that it's come to this point now. So, but yeah, that was the one good advice that my cousin said to me, which was, yeah, like what's the end goal here? Like what do you think that one thing was for you? Like what was the best piece of advice?
The best piece. So I want to just say what you said, which is really powerful there,
Yeah.
of acknowledging that they're hurting too.
Mm.
That was part of my journey was realizing like hurt people hurt others,
Yeah.
right? And it suddenly became like apparent to me that this man is hurting as well, right? And for me, I think I talk about it at the last podcast, but for me, it was like once I'd got through that phase of that acceptance and kind of done my crying, it was then I got to call my coach basically and be like,
Mm.
I don't know where I'm going next, but I want to know where I'm going next.
Yeah.
Right. I need to start looking after me. And for me, I remember she said to me, she's like, you're going through a transition phase. Don't start thinking big. Because I always was like, oh, right. I'm one of those where I'm like, just want to get over it now. I just want to get over it. It's like a sticky tape plaster and I just want to rip it over.
Yeah.
I just want this done with. Right. And then it was like, well, hold your horses, because I'm quite impatient. Maybe not as much anymore. It was right. Just acknowledge where you're at. And let's
Mm.
just see, rather than thinking that big, what's just going to get you through this
Yeah.
little pot? Yeah. What's your little, because that's why when I talk about and the work that I do as well, creating visions for yourself, it's
Mm.
that sense of then anchoring yourself of where am I going next? Because that is now crumbled. Well,
Mm.
what do you want your relationship with him to look like?
Mm.
Do you want to keep fighting him? Do you want to keep withdrawing? Do you want to keep staying here? Or do you
Mm.
want to start moving this around
Yeah.
or turn it around? Sorry, turn it around. And it was that sense of knowing that and it's interesting, I just had this conversation with someone today, is knowing that I'm not the victim in my life, I'm the leader in my life.
Yeah. I love that.
I'm not the victim in my life, I'm the leader. So I've got a choice. I can just let things, like you said, you can just let it all happen.
Mm.
Or it's like, well, where am I leading? And then I can't aimlessly lead. So where am I steering this ship, to use the
Mm.
kind of, the boat analogy? Where am I, like, because leadership, right? So where am I steering this ship? Where am I going?
Mm.
And then once that was like the biggest mindset shift for me,
Mm.
like of all right, what does that look like? And I can change this around. And it's not going to happen overnight. That was for me that I had to slow down
Mm.
and acknowledge like this isn't something I'm going to have to just rush through. I had to take that, prioritize like myself and this, what would I truly love next?
Yeah.
And it's also like, people talk about self-care. It wasn't just in that self-care and go and get a massage, or self-care in the sense of what do I really love? Who am I as a woman?
Yeah. It's like your identity, right? You're
My
like trying to figure
identity,
that.
because it's like, because we are, my identity was as the wife.
Mm.
Yeah. Then it was my identity as a mother, and that I'm the wife is gone. I'm not just a mother. There's more to me than just a mother.
Mm.
What does that look like, and investing in me? And then she got me to do that. So I think the best piece of advice was like, where do you want to lead yourself?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
first focus in, it's an inside out journey, right?
Yeah.
Of doing that. And what does that look like for you
Mm.
just getting forward? And if it is going back to work, then sure, maybe you need to chill out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Rather than just as a coping mechanism, just be like, I'm not coping. I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I need time out.
Mm.
I need that time to like reset and refocus on where am I going next. And I think that was a big part of my own healing journey, was taking that time out for myself.
Mm.
Because there's a pivotal moment. Like, what was your pivotal moment that kind of took you up,
Mm.
so to
I
speak?
think,
Because we talk about the stages. So you're in that acceptance phase.
yeah.
And a lot of people, let's get real here, Prash, kind of just stay there in
Mm.
that rock bottom. It is rock bottom, right?
Yeah. It
You
is. Yeah.
have to hit low before you can come back up. And then envisioning what your new future looks like, you
Mm.
need to have that compelling vision for the future. And some people don't have that, and then they get
Yeah.
lost,
Yeah.
right? But what was your thing to be starting to kind of rising back up to that,
Yeah. No,
to grow?
definitely. Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said there as well. And like something your coach was kind of like leading you through as well is like taking baby steps, right? So I
Yes,
think a huge part of that part is making sure you have the emotional capacity at each stage, right? Because
yes.
yeah, you can think about the bigger vision, which is going to be all the way down here, but then like you said, like how do you get through the small stages? Then you're never going to have the maximum emotional capacity to get to that end goal because that's still quite far away and that vision is far away. But you've got to
Mm,
get through the in between. So every small step is a step to the right direction, right? As
yes.
long as you're not coasting or you're making the right changes you need to. But for me, the pivotal moment was, and we spoke about in the last one, which was the turning point was for me when I drank that bottle of whiskey for the second night and seeing that picture of my nephew, and I didn't want to be a negative story for him. So then I decided after coming out of that negative cycle that I was in, I then decided that I was going to make a change and a real difference. And two of my cousins at the time, like honestly, hands down, like they were the biggest blessing to me as well because they're the ones who are in the world of the law of attraction stuff and manifesting. And I've totally rejected this stuff, right? When they tried to talk to me about it whilst I was married, it's like, oh, I don't want to listen to that. I've got too much problems in my life, got too much issues with my wife, and that's what deserves my focus. I need to try and heal that. But then when it came to the point of like post-divorce and feeling like suicidal and recognizing like I don't want to be a negative story for my nephew, that was the turning point of them allowing them to kind of come back into my life to then talk to me about this stuff and me just embracing it because it got to a point where I was like, I've lost everything up until now. That's where I was at, right? And I was like, what else do I have to lose now? So I might as
Mm,
well embrace it because if I embrace it, I've got everything to gain. And
yes.
honestly, hands down, the best thing I did. And it was like, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't embrace that mindset and their teachings and everything we used to sit and talk about. And don't get me wrong, we used to have, talk on a normal level as well, like things that were frustrating me and whatever. But on the back of that as well, we would talk about the positive stuff as well, like how do you start moving forward now? What do you need to work through? So I guess that was it for me, was like being introduced to that world and then
Yeah.
meditating to like really face my emotions and grieve and then journal to express my emotions on paper, like what I was holding on to. These were the points of like helping me get through the hard patches, then focus on the bigger vision once I had more emotional capacity. Because once
Yes.
I had the more emotional capacity, I was like, okay, well, I've gone through this stage. Now, what's next for me? Do I want to get married again? Do I want kids? Do I want to end up in another relationship or what? And this is when I started asking the questions like that. What do I truly want out of life? Where do I see myself going? And I think that's when you start to figure out, or some people tend to figure out that their journey as well and their life's purpose.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it was for me.
But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's an important point that you made about investing in your own emotional, making sure you're emotionally resilient
Mm,
yourself, right? And
yeah,
taking the baby steps, right? Like for example, like my bigger vision was to create a healthy co-parenting dynamic with two loving
yeah.
parents, right? Now that when I'm in the midst of the crap of it, I'm not going to jump from here to there, right? Part of that is you need to invest in yourself. You need to resource yourself
Yeah.
is a big part of that journey and
Mm,
taking those steps, like you said. And then it could be there's a mini vision within a vision,
yeah.
right? So that was
Yeah.
the bigger one. Well, hold on, prior to that, let's get real here. You need to divorce this guy, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a couple of
Reminds.
like little visions within a vision, but at least I kind of knew a direction of where I was going to, so to
Yeah.
speak. And I think it is also connecting with your own inner wisdom. Like I know
Yeah.
you talked about the laws of attraction, but also knowing that your best coach is sitting right inside of you,
Mm,
right? Your own inner soul wisdom is there to guide you if you choose to listen to it, if you
yeah.
choose to follow your intuition and those breadcrumbs.
Mm,
Well, as long as you're giving it a sense of direction of where it's going. So I had a sense of direction, of orientation, and then it
mm,
was following those breadcrumbs along the way. And I think for me, my pivotal moment was going on a retreat in Greece. It was the height of lockdown, Prash,
mm,
like proper, like, no one was flying anywhere. I've got a
yeah.
2-year-old child. It's just me and her cooped up, can't go out because apparently you might die. I know we shouldn't say this, but
Yeah.
that's how it felt at the time, right?
Yeah.
And I kept my intuition was telling me because I met this woman that did these retreats in Greece that I need to be there. Now
Mm,
it felt impossible. I was like, how on earth am I going to get there? I'm just like during lockdown, I'm
yeah.
separated. This feels like impossible. All right. I followed those breadcrumbs, and that was like the biggest thing that I did because I invested in myself.
Mm,
It was then the beginning of that co parenting relationship where it was like, well, actually, my daughter can stay with her dad for those
mm,
days. Right. And so I was able to invest in myself. Was the mum guilt there? Yes, it was. I'm not going to lie.
yeah.
But I knew I needed to do this to resource myself to have what you said, the emotional capacity to then be able to go through that divorce stage, to then
Mm,
be able to transition to then co-parenting. I needed to take that time out to do that.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a part of, so you do need to have a compelling vision. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also need to go with your own intuition and follow it, even though it might feel like crazy. You do, those breadcrumbs will lead you there. Like if you've
Yeah.
got an anchor to take you to what you would truly love to create.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's getting clearer. I think for you as well, Prash, it's getting clearer where you're going next and what are those, that's that halfway step and what's that bigger vision. You've got to do both, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I just want to take a moment to pause there as well and just say that you're an absolute amazing role model to your daughter. Like the fact that you're able to do these things and have the awareness to do it back then as well. Like I'm sure you will have plenty of stories to talk to your daughter about when she's older, just so she can really appreciate like what did mom have to go through? You know, you've come a long way from where you were to where you are now. And like it's something you talked to me about as well, like during our sessions, or when we did that session a few months ago, which was like, where are you operating from? Is it your lower self or your higher self? And when you really kind of think about that question, right? Any decision you make moving forward, like realistically, you got to make it from one of them, right? One of themselves, right? And looking back now, and you can probably relate to this as well, like you were doing it without even realizing back then, right? Up until you probably learn about the different states, right? Like lower self and higher self. Like you were already making choices for yourself, like going to Greece because you recognize that you needed that for your healing process and your journey. And that was coming from your higher self because that's what you truly needed. But yeah, kind of leading on to like the co-parenting thing as well, like recognizing like finding like a balance there. You know, your ultimate goal was your vision back then was to focus on like how do you co-parent, like make this a healthy co-parenting relationship, right? Like that is so important. And I guess this kind of leads us on to the next episode as well, right? Because you of course have so much to offer to our audience where people are going through the same situation or gone through it and they're still struggling to communicate with their, ex-partners. So for someone who has gone through it, I think you've got a lot to offer to a lot of people out in the world. So, but yeah, I just kind of want to take a moment there to say
Oh, bless you.
you're doing an amazing job, like especially for your daughter, like strong, powerful woman, and you're really displaying that for your daughter.
Oh, bless. Thank you. Feeling the love here.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah,
Back at you. And it's
yeah,
one of those where it goes back to what we were saying earlier, right? You be the leader in your life. So I was
yeah,
being the leader in my life. I was directing my ship. I didn't know where that ship was going,
mm,
but I could see that I had an end goal,
yeah,
right? And I knew, luckily, I was trained in this
mm,
because I know how to connect with that higher self, and then I know how to distinguish between that low. And hey,
mm,
look,
mm,
even though I'm trained in this, I could have still gone to that comfort zone and stayed there,
yeah,
right? I still could have listened to outside opinion and been like, she's mad, she's a bad mum for leaving her child and going to Greece. All of that was happening. I'll be real,
yeah,
right? But then it's, where are you putting the power?
mm,
Am I going to be the victim and let, everything else just drift the shores and see where I end up? Or I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to do this.
yeah,
In the end, when you do, and we're talking about this about being like selfish, it gets, you do that, people around you will benefit. When you go for your truth and do what is true for you,
mm,
those around you will benefit. And
yeah,
three lives are a lot better now. That's
mm,
mine, it's my daughter's, and my ex-husband for taking that decision and going through that path. So yeah, probably the next episode is probably unpacking this
yeah.
lovely journey of co-parenting, which yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Just to kind of touch on there as well, like you mentioned, like three people's lives are better. I feel like, especially in the Asian community, like so many people stay in that marriage regardless of how unhappy they are,
Yeah.
because they don't want to be a disappointment or ruin their reputation or, or for the kids' sake, right? And it's like, well, what are you teaching your kids then? Like what filters down to them that you should just deal with it and just put up with it versus truly blossoming and flourishing in life. And I feel like that's what you made the hard decision back then,
Mm,
right? And you are flourishing now. Like you said, you touched on it earlier in this conversation, like your life in another universe where you stayed in that marriage would have been so different
yes.
versus where you are now. And I think that's so important. And that's because you chose to be the leader. And it's the same thing I did. I chose to, rather than have someone else dictate or other people dictate like what my life should be and what I should follow, I chose to take control of my own life and like take control of the wheel, right? Like, well, actually,
Yeah.
I'm going to steer this ship now and I want it to go where I want it to go, not because someone else is telling me what I need to do, right? And it's like, and when you truly take that control back, like I felt empowered because it was like, well, I have
Absolutely.
all the power now to do what I truly want to do. yes, other people are going to have their opinions, and that's okay. And I think a huge part to acknowledge here as well is that, especially when it comes to parents, they will always be fearful of big decisions that you make because they're genuinely concerned about you, but also
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
uncomfortable for them.
yeah,
So why is he like for me it was like why is he doing these certain things? And it's like it's okay, like look, I don't expect them to understand everything, but it's like I need you to do certain things for myself and then in the moments and then in that time, and I still do as well, that I understand because I know where I'm going. I don't need everyone to understand my vision. As long as I know where I'm going as my own leader, that's what's empowering,
exactly. And
right?
you're going into, like, we're going with a sailing analogy, yeah? You're going into
Yeah.
uncharted waters,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you know where you're going. It's like I was saying to one of my clients, you know you're going to Australia, right? You can't really see it, but you're going to Australia. And
Mm.
then it might be you can't see it, you physically can't, but you are steering that ship towards it. If
Yeah.
you didn't, and you're like, I don't know where I'm going, you would just be drifting around
Mm.
in that. And part of that is in the unknown. You are, when you're going into uncharted territories, into those uncharted waters, using that analogy, it is, you're going into, I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
know. I just got this thing to go to Greece. I'm following the breadcrumbs. I didn't know what that was then going to lead to.
Mm.
Right. I didn't realize that that was going to then emotionally resource me to then
Mm.
come back and be clear on, right, I'm ready to start the divorce process.
Yeah.
Right. This is what I've got to do. It gave me like crystal clear clarity.
Mm.
Even though I couldn't see my version of the vision called Australia, right? I kind of knew I'm heading there. I'm steering my ship there and I'm just following my little breadcrumbs of little
Mm.
intuition that's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful, it is, and it works, right? We know because we did that in a little mini session with you. But
Yeah.
it's when you start following it, you get that momentum.
Mm.
And then it doesn't matter what other people, in a way, like if I look at, and you probably feel this too, I feel now my father probably respects me more now.
Mm.
At the time, he was like, what the hell? And then he's like, wow, you did that.
Mm.
Okay, wow, I didn't think you could. It's then it's like a little role shift. It's like, well, I've gone into uncharted territories and now I'm like showing my parents a different way. When
Yeah.
now they have a complete different take on what divorce is, instead of like being ashamed of their daughter and don't tell anyone, kind of, we
Yeah.
talked about in the first episode. Now it's like, well, you're fine, she's happy. Now it's like a very different story.
Yeah.
Right?
No, definitely. Yeah. I feel like your
Their
parents kind of
opinions change, don't they? I'm sure your parents have. Now they're really
yeah.
proud of you. Yeah, this is my better.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, yeah, it definitely changes, right? Yeah, no, I think, yeah, a lot of the times it just comes from a place of concern for them, and that's totally natural, right? Like your parents, just like you would be concerned for your daughter if she was going through a difficult patch, like it's the same thing for our parents, but also just kind of recognizing like it's okay, like, and once you explain that to them, like why you're doing certain things, if they're interested, if they want to know, right, why, and they do have a better understanding, they grow with you, and I think that's the most important thing here is like they're growing and healing through that journey with you as well. But the one conflict I do feel though, like as my parents have grown, I feel like they're stuck in the middle now because their mindset has upgraded versus other people in their life.
Yeah.
So it's like other people have remained in a fixed mindset, right? And because of my journey and my growth, like they've grown with me, and then recognizing like the people who haven't grown around us, like there's that slight conflict there because it's like who do you please, like who do you agree with, and there's that back and forth, right? So but yeah, no, yeah, parents definitely play a big role in this as well, right? And yeah,
But
it's
they shouldn't be leading. So then just to come back to what we said earlier,
yeah.
literally don't care about other people's opinions. You do
Mm.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, you're going into uncharted territory. They don't know this journey.
Mm.
Heck, it was still unfolding for me, if I'm honest, right? Yes, I had an anchor of where I'm going to, but I didn't have it all. It wasn't a fully fledged plan,
Mm.
right? But you can't be held back by what someone else thinks, because then
No.
you're going back into that victim mentality again, right?
Yeah.
You got to follow you, do you, prioritize yourself, put yourself first.
Yeah.
Your face mask, what they say in the airplane, put your face mask on first
Yeah.
before you put others, then you can help others. That's
Mm.
what you got to do here. Put
Yeah.
yourself first, is what I would say to people that are listening to
Yeah.
this. Get clear on what you want and where
Mm.
you're going. And then through that, it's going to be messy. Don't worry. It's okay not to be okay during that.
Yeah.
Have something to anchor you
Mm.
as you're kind of going forward. It's probably my little parting thought on that.
Yeah. No, definitely. And just to kind of add to what you said there as well, and that is it's okay not to have everything figured out,
Yes.
right? So important because it's like I was constantly on this journey of like at the start, like, "Oh, what's next? I need to figure this out," but it's okay. Like then, going back to how you were coached as well, like taking baby steps. You don't need to have the end vision. Like, you don't need to have arrived at that destination already. You're still going through the healing process, and that's okay. So it's okay not to have everything figured out
Yeah.
in your journey of healing and growing. But the main thing for me and my thoughts is you have to have a mindset shift from being the victim to being, well, I'm open to everything that's happening to me right now.
Yeah.
And I know that once I get, as I'm going through this, that more abundance is going to come my way. And I say this to a lot of clients as well, and that is, in order for something bigger and greater to come into your life, old things and people or energy has to be removed out of your life.
Yes.
And I think that's the way I saw it, was like, even though it's such a big traumatic experience, that old relationship and people in my life at that time and energy and everything that was going on had to be removed for me to be where I am now. And I'm genuinely happy in life now. So yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. Like I think we're both examples of, life after divorce.
yeah,
Sounds quite dramatic, right? But there is life, right?
there is,
And
yeah, yeah,
have just a little caveat, have an idea where you're going. Like
mm,
I said, I know I use the analogy of Australia, right? But have an idea
yeah,
and take those little baby steps. Take the
mm,
little baby steps. Take your time through
yeah,
this and know that, like you said, it's going to be okay.
mm,
And you're going to have those little stumbling blocks, and that's okay too.
yeah,
All right, but be clear on start thinking about what does the other side look like? Just indulge in that a little bit is what I would
yeah,
say.
yeah,
So
yeah,
because it gives you some hope, a sense of hope and a sense of direction.
mm,
And then it gives you, then your destination, but then it's like follow then the journey on that. Don't get too fixated on rushing there because
yeah,
that's my pattern is to rush things.
mm,
It's also done. This is a journey. It took like I didn't start the divorce process. It took me about what, a year and a half, 2 years until
yeah,
I did, right? I
yeah,
took my time and to
yeah,
invest in me. And then when I did,
mm,
that happened, like the actual divorce itself happened within 4 months.
yeah, that's amazing.
Right. But why was it that quick, Prash? Because I
Mm,
did that work on myself first.
yeah,
I got myself emotionally resilient first. I had the
mm,
emotional capacity. I got clear on where am I taking this. So then when I did start it, it
mm,
flowed.
yeah,
Yeah. Then things will start flowing. And I don't want to get woo on this, but like, the universe then flows with you.
yeah,
Yeah. It then
yeah,
starts transpiring, working in your favor when you start following those breadcrumbs and following that inner wisdom in you. It will happen.
yeah.
And it benefits then all around you. All those around you will then benefit from it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I always say this to everyone as well, like just put your trust and faith in the universe. And if you believe in God, put your faith and trust in God as
Yeah.
well. Because it's something that I've affirmed over the last few years. And I guess this is a whole different topic, but like God and the universe mean and want the best for me, right? So everything that's happening to me, it's okay because it's leading me onto something greater, bigger and better. So I have to go through these challenges, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
trust in the universe and find your spirituality as well. That's another topic as well. Like spirituality was a big thing for me during this phase. And finding
Yeah.
that because I lost it for such a long time, probably over a year. I lost that whole religious side of me. And there were certain events that unfolded, which we can probably talk about in another episode, where helped me gain that faith back in God. Um, and
That's yeah, a good one segue, I think, for the next because the picture behind me is Shiva Shakti, right?
yeah, yeah,
In all honesty, there were points where I felt like God was carrying me. I was
mm,
ready to go, as I said in the last episode, right? So maybe there's a
yeah,
little flavor of our next episode of
yeah,
that kind of a faith like anchoring you in
yeah,
this. But it's also what I say as well is making woo woo practical. That's what I'm about, right?
yeah. I
Let's
love
let's get real. It's
it.
not like then having your head in the clouds about this, but like how can you then resource yourself through that?
Yeah.
To use that as a tool to navigate you and give you that hope of and clarity of where you're going next. So
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a mindset shift, isn't it? Like
yeah,
from a fixed mindset to growth mindset. And it's not woo-woo. It's like how can you be more of a embrace, sorry, how can you embrace more of a growth mindset? And this is it. It's all part of that law of attraction and the universe and all of this stuff. It all ties in line one way
yeah.
or another. So, but yeah, I think that's a good segue onto the next episode.
Next
And then maybe
episode. Yeah.
we definitely still want to talk about co-parenting because
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like that can still add so much value to other people
We
out
can
there who are,
intertwine the two. We'll intertwine
yeah,
the two.
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Cool. Looking
Cool.
forward.
All right. We packed in
Yeah,
quite a bit. Any
yeah.
parting things to say before we go?
Yeah, I think one thing that I can probably say on the healing and growth journey is believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself to get to the other end. And even though times may feel tough and you're down in the trenches, because there will be them times, I've been through it, been through the mud, and and you do come out on the other end. And I'm truly living, like you can see behind me, like I've got this amazing office setup. You truly can live your best life if you focus and zone in and shift your energy to the right things and to the things that serve you to empower you to make your life better versus staying down and crumbling and just not really moving through life and just coasting. So yeah, it all comes back to self-belief, and there will be times where you challenge that and you question it, but I wrote on my vision board like you are enough and you are worthy because I believed on myself, believed in that's how much I believed in myself for succeeding. How about you?
Absolutely. How about for me? So I think for me, the main thing that I kind of preach here is just be the conscious leader in your life.
Mm,
Really, and I deliberately use the word conscious leader. I really connect with what you would love, where are you steering yourself? Because you ultimately are the predominant creative force in your life,
yeah.
right? You're not the
Hmm.
victim in your life. And you
No.
have a choice here. You can either let things happen to you, or you can lead that and be the trailblazer here, be the one
Yeah.
who's then directing a new, brighter future. And it is like, trust me, for people that are going through this,
Mm,
this is just a temporary
yeah.
phase. It's a temporary phase. It's not forever,
Mm,
right? And you
yeah.
are going to come back up and lead yourself up there. And then if you need help, support, like
Yeah.
reach out to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And if they need to want to resonate with whatever I'm saying or practice saying, then we're here, feel free to kind
Yeah.
of reach out. Don't just wallow in that on your
Yeah.
own.
Yeah. We're here to help heal the world. So yeah.
Oh, it's so corny. Yeah. It's Michael Jackson, isn't it? Heal the world.
Yeah, yeah.
I know what you mean. Like
Yeah,
our
yeah,
intentions are pure, like genuinely, we
yeah, of
both
course.
like
Yeah.
we have a passion and love to serve and to help
Mm,
people. So yeah,
yeah,
don't feel you're on alone. On
yeah.
your own. Cool.
That's cool.
Should we end that one there?
Yeah, yeah. We'll see you all on the next one.
See you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.